Thank you, Your Honor. We would call Brian Olehy.
Witness sworn.
Would you state your name?
Brian Olehy, Olehy.
And where are you employed?
I'm employed by the Indiana Gaming Commission.
And what do you do for them?
I'm a gaming agent, a law enforcement officer enforcing gaming and regulating gaming in the state of Indiana as a full police-powered officer.
Previously, were you employed by the Indiana State Police?
Yes, I was employed by the Indiana State Police from 1995 until 2021.
Did you go through the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy?
Yes, I attended the Law Enforcement Academy from January of 95 to June of 95, and then I was appointed as a trooper to work at the Lowell Post.
How long were you or did you have that role as a trooper at the Lowell Post?
Approximately 4 years before I was transferred into the gaming division, which the state police was then in charge of. I spent a year with the gaming enforcement from the state police, working for the Gaming Commission on a casino in Gary, Indiana. I then returned to patrol duties in the El Owl district for approximately 6 months, and then I spent, after that, approximately 3.5 years as a district-level detective, investigating every level of crime as a detective. I was then promoted in 2004 with the Indiana State Police to sergeant to work in the Public Information Office and served as the Public Information Officer/Media Relations Officer for Northwest Indiana. In December of 2004, I was promoted to First Sergeant and served at General Headquarters as the Assistant Commander of the Public Information Office for the Indiana State Police. And then, in the fall of 2015, I took a position within the laboratory as a sergeant, as a crime scene investigator working from the Indiana State Police Lab as a sergeant for the Indiana State Police, and held that position until my retirement from the Indiana State Police.
How long were you a crime scene investigator?
Approximately 7 years.
And what training did you receive to be a crime scene investigator?
Specifically, I received training in the academy on various aspects of criminal investigations and evidence, and then specifically related to the crime scene investigator position, my initial training was a 4-week, 160-hour course put on through the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy at Plainfield, and then continuing education of hundreds of hours of various trainings on every aspect of crime scene investigation from basic collection of evidence to things like fingerprints, vehicle crimes. Specific things, just a various number of areas of.
How many crime scenes did you process during your 7 years as a crime scene investigator?
Some years, more than others. I would say that the number was probably between 275 and 350.
How many of those were death scenes?
I would say probably a third of those involved some sort of death.
And did you testify in court as a crime scene investigator?
Yes, I have.
Describe for the jury the specific duties that you have as a crime scene investigator.
A crime scene investigator's role would be to document, particularly to document evidence at a scene or of an event. One of the primary duties is to photograph a scene so that you can capture it as it was as you found it upon your arrival, to collect evidence or anything that may be of a probative nature related to that crime scene, to preserve that evidence and package it, and to document the evidence through sketching, photographs, note-taking, using a thorough and systematic approach to documenting a scene and collecting the items that may be there.
I want to direct your attention to February 14, 2017. Where were you assigned? What was your area you were working as a crime scene investigator at that time?
My area of initial responsibility was to be assigned to the specific counties of Tippecanoe, White, Carroll, and Clinton counties were my 4 primary counties. The way that we were set up was that one crime scene investigator.
Were you alerted at some point on that day to the fact that 2 girls had been found, the bodies of 2 girls had been found in Carroll County?
Yes. I received a phone call from Carroll County Sheriff's Department Detective Kevin Hammond, advising me that 2 missing girls had been found deceased and he was requesting my assistance at the scene. That was the initial.
Did you know?
That was the initial call.
Did you know Detective Hammond?
Yes, I did. I'd worked several cases with him.
And how did you respond?
I entered my vehicle and drove to the area where he requested me to be.
Did you reach out and contact any others at that time?
Yes. Shortly after I started my way towards Carroll County from Tippecanoe County, I called CSI Sergeant Jason Page. Due to the fact that there were 2 deceased, I knew that this was probably going to be more than just a simple crime scene prior to my arrival with very limited information, so I requested that Sergeant Page come and assist me. I then received another phone call from Detective Hammond, advising me that the information he now had was that the 2 appeared to have been murdered and this was not an accidental or.
And had you worked with Page and Datsman in the past?
Numerous times, yes.
Where did you arrive and tell the jury, if you know, the approximate time you arrived at the location you were asked to go to?
I arrived at the area, the county road in the area that I would refer to as the Bridge Trail or the Monon Bridge Trail or the Delphi Walking Bridge Trail. I can't specifically recall the county road, I think it's 300, but I can't remember the exact county road number. But I was advised that it was near the old Delphi Cemetery. I went to that location and located Detective Hammond and began to discuss the situation with him. I know that I was parked in the back of the cemetery, on the south end of the cemetery.
And did you meet with Detective Hammond?
Yes, I did.
Tell the jury what action you took at that time.
Detective Hammond and I went from the cemetery down into a pretty steep ravine that went down towards Deer Creek. It drops off fairly sharply and has a pretty steep grade going from the cemetery down to what I would refer to as a river bottom or a floodplain area along the creek. It's sheavily wooded. It's basically what I would refer to as a typical Indiana forested area along.
You cover your region you cover as several rural counties. Is that correct?
Yes. I would describe most of Indiana as a rural state.
You're not unaccustomed to going to this type of an area to conduct investigation?
No, that's correct.
Are you also a hunter?
Yes, I am.
And did that give you another vantage point or experience to draw on in terms of what you were seeing, and how you interpreted the scene?
What I would call, I'm a hunter. I'm not a deer hunter, but several of my friends are, and it was an area that I would call prime deer country or wooded area where deer hunting would very often take place. Yeah, it was an excellent place where I would, if I was going to hunt deer, would hunt deer. I looked in the area for tree stands. And I'd also been advised at some point that trail cameras were reportedly in the area because it was a hunting ground, and I had asked Detective Hammond to task someone to look for trail cameras in the area and collect those if they were in the area. To my knowledge, no trail cameras were found.
To your knowledge, was that request followed upon though and?
Yes. I was specifically told that they had searched and there were no trail cameras found. I recall asking them also to reach out to, using, local data and plat maps to determine who the landowners were and to reach out to the landowners and to determine if there were any deer hunters who regularly hunted the property. It's my experience in Indiana, not only the owner, but also other people will often hunt on ground, so I asked them to reach out to the landowners and see if they had permission for anyone to hunt in the area.
Tell the jury what the scene security was like when you arrived, once you came down from the cemetery and arrived closer to Deer Creek.
As I was coming down the hill, I observed a trooper who I believe I recall to be Wes Ennis, who was putting up crime scene tape over a large area. I do specifically recall speaking to Wes and asking him to make the area very large and broad, and that's part of crime scene documentation is not to too narrowly define your crime scene so that you don't leave anything out. And I also was aware that a crime scene log or any entry log to document who entered and who left the scene had already been started prior to my arrival. I requested to make sure that it had already been done and I was advised it was. And when I got down to the bottom of the hill, I was logged in by the trooper who was maintaining the crime scene and, to my recollection, that was Trooper Larry Moat.
Did you designate, at some point, an area within that larger crime scene area, as Ground Zero?
I would say that the area where the bodies were located and an area probably 20 to 30 feet around them would be Ground Zero. I would say in that area, even probably another 10 or 15 feet out, I specifically requested that no one enter that area, no one go into that area until it was time to fully examine.
Sir, did you observe anyone at the Ground Zero area upon your arrival?
To the best of my recollection, as Detective Hammond and I discussed the events and what was known at that time in the area and also discussed the trail cameras, there were 2 personnel in an area near the body. They were probably still 30 to 40 yards away from me, maybe 50 yards away from where I entered the crime scene area. I believe them to be Deputy Jonkola and Deputy Yoder from the Carroll County Sheriff's Department.
Once you arrived, were you the lead officer in the crime scene area, the crime scene and Ground Zero at that time, in terms of who had the role to lead this investigation, the crime scene aspect of it?
The crime scene aspect of it, so I would say this, a crime scene investigator for the Indiana State Police, and in my experience with all the cases that I worked, probably 90 to 95% of the cases that I worked for crime scene were for other agencies other than the Indiana State Police. They were for town marshals, for sheriff's departments, for OTR agencies other than the state police. So at Kevin Hammond's, at Detective Hammond's request, I came to assist the Carroll County Sheriff's Office as the lead investigating agency. I took my role as the lead crime scene investigator at that scene based upon the fact that it is a primary county assigned to me. I would also say that, upon the arrival of Sergeant Page and Sergeant Datzman, both had more time and experience as a crime scene investigator than me, but I would still consider.
Sir, were you carrying any firearms at the time?
I don't believe I was carrying a firearm at that time, because I knew I was going to be going up and down the hill and I wasn't in an area where I didn't feel safe. If I would have been carrying a firearm, it would have been one of my 2 issued firearms and it would not have been the sidearm for a trooper, the regular sidearm for a trooper, which, at that time, was a Sig Sauer P227, a .45 caliber. The other firearm and the only firearm I carried on a daily basis was a Sig P365, which is a 9mm.
So did you have any ammunition in your possession?
No.
If you had, your firearms were 9mm or .45s?
That's correct.
Did you interact with any agents and staff, non-special agents, but staff members of the Federal Bureau of Investigation sometime after your arrival?
Yes, I did.
And did you give them tasks to perform and did you participate with them?
I did, and what you're referring to I believe the FBI calls their ERT team or evidence response team, and it's my understanding that the evidence response team is multiple members of the agency who are trained in the collection of evidence. I don't know their rank, status, or position. I don't know if they were.
So they may have been civilians, in other words?
They may have been civilian, they may have been sworn, I'm not.
Okay.
I don't have that specific information.
But you did interact with them and work with them sometime after your arrival?
Yes, I did.
Explain that to the jury, what you did with them and had them do.
So as there were multiple tasks to divide up, one of the tasks that I asked the FBI evidence response team to do was collect items which had been located during a search of the area prior to my arrival, which included items of clothing found in Deer Creek and in the water. Those items had been monitored and observed constantly upon my arrival by a group from Tippecanoe County, which was the dive team, the emergency response dive team from Tippecanoe County, which is, to my knowledge, is administered by the Emergency Management Association. They had been watching the items that had been found in the creek, and then I tasked the ERT team, the FBI's ERT team, to collect those items from the water, collect the water with them, and then go through the water in the bags and collect those items individually and provide them to me once they had collected them. I took photographs of those items prior to them collecting them, and I also believe that the FBI team took some photographs, as well.
And did you direct any Indiana State Police officers to then receive from that FBI ERT the items that were removed and handed to them from?
Yes. There was another state police crime scene investigator, Sergeant Jim Cody, came to the scene at a later time at my request. Specifically, I requested that Sergeant Cody come with some specific equipment for documenting crime scenes which I do not have possession of. They're given to some of the crime scene investigators around the state based on the cost of the equipment, so we utilize it whenever it's needed, and an officer assigned that equipment comes to the scene when it's needed.
What equipment is that?
It's called a Faro and it very much will produce what appears to be a photograph or a picture, but it's actually points of light and it uses light points to create what, to the naked eye, looks exactly like a picture, but is not actually a photograph as we know it.
And Faro is FARO?
I believe it's a Faro.
FARO?
Yes.
To
fully answer your question though, I asked, at that point, after they had collected those items and I'd observed them, due to their very wet condition from being in the creek, I asked Sergeant Cody to take those items to his location at the Putnamville post, where they had a more sufficient drying room to dry those items, so that they could be packaged for further examination.
The Putnamville post had a better facility for that aspect or for drying?
Yes.
Evidence?
Yes.
Why was it important?
My assignment was at the Lafayette post, and the drying room there was substandard at the time.
And why is it important, if you have wet clothes, to have them in a dry room or address that issue of their wetness?
So the drying room will basically, without acting like a clothes dryer with extreme heat, moves filtered air through the small room to more quickly dry the clothes so that things like mold and mildew do not degrade any potential evidence on the clothing items.
Which can happen to DNA evidence if they become moldy?
Any biological evidence, yes.
So then, did you also assist the FBI, work with them, in searching a broad area there?
Yes.
That afternoon?
So during the time that the Faro scan was being completed by Sergeant Cody, we need to basically stay out of an initial area, because if you are in the range of the Faro scanner, your image will also show upon whatever he documents, so it's not customary to be in that location. You move out of the area, so the Faro scanner can take its images or collect its points of data to create what it does. So we went out of the area to one far end of what I would consider the full crime scene or the area of the crime scene within the barrier tape or the crime scene tape. What I had us do was basically a step and walk.
Now, that would have avoided the ground zero area though?
It would have gone around the ground zero area.
Did you document with photographs in addition to Sergeant Page and Sergeant Datzman? Did you also take photographs at the scene?
Yes, I did.
I'm gonna move ask to S how you states Exhibit 78 there's quite a bundle here. I'm gonna ask you to take care not to display them to the jury.
Yes, sir.
Just ask you to look at these, 78 to 137, and tell me if they are true and accurate representations of what you examined, both on the 14th at the crime scene, as well as on February the 15th at the autopsy in Terre Haute. May we approach, Your Honor?
Yes, you may. Sidebar conference conducted.
Just to deal with it today, I thought since he's the photographer, I want to introduce the autopsy photos through him, but not publish them. I want to publish them through Dr. Kaur.
Oh, okay. So have them admitted but not for publication. Okay.
Yeah. I think that would be more efficient.
We have no objection.
But then publish them with your pathologist.
Right.
Okay.
So the other photographs, hopefully, I'll publish them today, that was my.
Okay.
Sidebar conference concluded.
He's done. Mr. Luttrell, he's done.
Okay. Are those true and accurate depictions of the scene, both on the 14th in the areas that you just described to the jury, as well as on the 15th in Terre Haute?
They are.
I would move the admission of these items, Your Honor, 78 through 137. States Exhibits 78 through 137 offered.
Could I just have a minute, Your Honor, to look at these?
You may.
Thank you. May we approach?
Yes.
Sidebar conference conducted.
Let's go over here, 'cause it looks like we're gonna be talking.
This is cleaner, inaudible.
Okay. But you're objecting.
Yes.
Okay.
The objection is that these are cumulative and they tend to be more prejudicial than probative. Number 93, that's cumulative. And number 94, 123, 124, 126. And also I think 126 is mostly irrelevant. I mean, it doesn't really, see what I'm saying? It doesn't tend to prove anything more. So I'd make a relevance objection on that. 127 the same, kind of 404, 2, 403, 128, 131, 132, 133 that has, inaudible. In here too, 134, 135, 136, and 137.
Okay. What's your response? Go ahead.
My response is that these photographs are appropriate, and any prejudicial effect does not greatly outweigh the probative value. There's great probative value in each of these photographs. The repetitive nature, there are different photographs from different areas of the crime scene. The blood spatter expert will testify and his testimony will be aided by these photographs. Secondly, the jury has been advised during voir dire, we asked questions that this was and in their jury questionnaires that there are these kind of photographs, that they're inaudible, in nature too, inaudible, prejudicial a little bit. And I think that, based upon this and if they've been offered to demonstrate an expert's testimony, which I understand the expert's not here today to lay that foundation, but I believe that would definitely be laid, even without, inaudible, the tendency to show.
I agree to the extent that there's no foundation at this point, but they'll be able to lay it with his.
Right. And that's the only ones that you are objecting to.
No, I objected to.
I'm sorry, you did 93 and 94 as well.
But mainly because I think they're cumulative. I mean, honestly, in looking at them, if you start loading them.
Right.
It does become prejudicial. These tend to prove inaudible.
Right.
So that's my basis for objection.
Okay. Well, and let me just here do it. I'll show them admitted, all over your objection. The ones that you have not objected to, you are not objecting to other than what you talked about here.
Yeah.
Okay. And as far as the autopsy photos, I'll admit them conditionally upon the completion of the foundation that you say you're going to be laying to assist the expert and assist the jury with the presentation.
And we're just not going to publish right now?
Right. We're not gonna get into that.
Okay.
Okay.
So they're admitted under condition?
The ones that he has, specifically 93 and 94, I'm gonna admit those over his objection. The autopsy photos that he's objected to, I'm admitting those, provided you can continue to lay the foundation with the forensic pathologist.
They're half admitted? They're half admitted?
Yeah, they're half admit D if you finish your foundation. Because I understand that we're doing it cause this guy sheer, and we don't want to have him come again, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Sidebar conference concluded.
All right, gentlemen, I'll show that states exhibits 78 through 137 inclusive are admitted. I note the objection to 93 and 94, to 123 to 128, and 131 to 137, and those will be conditional with your forensic pathologist, presuming that you can complete the foundation that you have started with this witness. States exhibits 78 through 137 admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think that's appropriate.
Judge, would you mind, just because I'm trying to take some notes, just reciting that again for me real quick? I just wasn't able to keep up.
You have not objected to 78 through 90.
Thank you.
You have not objected to 91 to 92, so those are admitted without objection.
Thank you.
You've objected to 93 and 94 as cumulative. I've overruled that objection and will show those admitted over objection. You have not objected to 95 through 120, so those are admitted without objection. You have not objected to 121 and 122 and to 129 and 130, so those are admitted without objection. You have objected to 123 through 128 and 131 through 137, and those are admitted over your objection, again provided the state can complete the foundation with a forensic pathologist.
Thank you for that.
'Cause we're not gonna admit, those aren't gonna be published today, they will be published with the pathologist.
Yes. I neglected to bring up something when we were all up there, but I don't think we need to go aside, Your Honor.
Okay.
Just have a question or need to get information.
Sidebar conference conducted.
I have 2 boxes with my evidence items that I'm going to be showing him and that he's going to be identifying. As we proceed, I don't know how late you want to go, but I just let you know that. I don't want you being surprised that that's happening.
Okay. We're gonna go until, well, it's 10 till 5. We'll probably go till 6.
Okay.
So I don't know where that puts you or where that puts you. I mean, that means cross.
It puts me here until 6, yeah.
Well, and then, potentially, cross overnight or tomorrow morning.
Just wait till tomorrow, yeah?
Okay.
All right.
Sidebar conference concluded.
Did you go to the Deer Creek Bank sometime not long after your arrival to address the question whether you'd been informed that clothing was found along the bank?
Yes, I went along the creek's bank, yes.
Did you document that with photographs?
Yes.
We'll look at State's Exhibit 78. What is this depicting, sir?
It depicts the north side of Deer Creek in the water as it appeared on that day, and then, in the kind of lower middle section, an article of clothing sticking partially out of the water appears to be stuck on debris within the creek.
There'll be other photographs later, soon to follow, but are they pictured without being able to discern them clearly? Are there other items that are contained within this frame that you later have close-up photos of?
Yes.
Would you orient this so the jury can relate it to the items that's in the foreground?
Oriented in, it's in Deer Creek.
With the court's permission, I'll ask you to come down.
You may.
If you could stand off to the side, so you don't interrupt the jury, can you and using that pointer?
There are items here which were later collected. Indicates.
If you touch that screen,
I know that now.
it'll react to it.
I apologize. And then also items in this area, which were later collected. This is what I would call the north side of the creek bank, and then opposite being the south side.
And Libby's and Abby's bodies are in what direction from this?
I'm sorry, almost a straight direction to the north of these items here.
So upstream from?
Upstream from this item, near these items, and then in a direct northerly line probably 50 to 75 feet away from the bank.
And what item of clothing is in the foreground here?
It appears to be, this is an item of jeans, blue jeans.
What do we see in photograph 79?
So this is from, basically looking from the opposite direction. The previous photograph would have been taken from somewhere down in this area, looking this direction. Indicates, and then, the jeans are actually here behind.
In between this area and here in the jeans, what do we see there underwater?
Oh, yes. I have glare. There's an article of clothing here, I believe it's like a hooded sweatshirt, a fleece-type hooded sweatshirt material. And then, this is more close-up of those clothing items caught, the tie-dyed shirt. This is like a handkerchief or a bandana-type item, and then a Nike athletic shoe. Pink-footed sock after collection, removed from the water, born BAG to photograph it.
And that's photograph 82. And this as we see, in the upper part of that photograph, ERT, is that a reference to the FBI agents?
That would be an individual employed by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This is what I would refer to a string shirt, a string-top shirt or a camisole possibly. Just as it's not a shirt, but I would call it a camisole shirt also collected from that area. The darkness of it doesn't really make it visible. It was collected from the same area that the other items were, again collected with the debris around it and then removed to show the item individually.
Does the item shown in that photograph 83, did it indicate its size?
It does. It indicates a brand of Faded Glory and a size of large, 10 to 12.
84.
This is the jeans that were pictured in one of the previous photographs collected. They are documented in an inside-out fashion, that's how they were found. And then string off of them from another item. And then appears to be underwear or women's undergarment on them. You can tell that they're inside out because of the pockets being observed here. And collected from the Deer Creek and removed to document for photographing of the individual item.
Picture 85.
Yeah, this is previously pictured in one of the other photos. This is what I would call a tie-dyed T-shirt. It is indicating an extra large shirt from a color tone brand. It's inside out, as well. It is also, has debris from the creek material. Again, removed and documented with photography.
86.
Another sock, this one, a footy type or ankleless sock, again collected from Deer Creek, individually photographed with some debris on it. It's that's what I would call a black or dark navy sock. This is that handkerchief or bandana type material that was observed in one of the other photographs, again collected with the debris and then pulled out of the water from the bag to document it individually.
This is photograph State's Exhibit 88.
This is the athletic shoe previously found in other photographs, Nike brand, indicated by the logo of the company. An athletic shoe found in the water, removed from the water, with the water in the bag, and then removed from that.
It appears to be a left shoe, is that correct?
It appears to be, yes. And it's also still tied.
That's the condition it was in when you removed it?
Yes.
89?
This is the gray object which is in one of the previous photographs underwater. It's what I would call a hooded sweatshirt, a zip-up hooded sweatshirt, the fleece type or cotton type material. Again, wet from the water being collected from Deer Creek, removed and then individually photographed.
This was the submerged garment that was between the jeans and the clump that had the shoe.
Correct.
And the tie-dyed shirt? What are those strings? Are they attached to that garment?
I believe there's some sort of a tie for the hooded portion of it, best that I can tell.
For the record, we're talking about the tannish.
Which is also depicted over here, indicates, and appears to go up into the hooded section.
I'm gonna ask you to remain there and we're gonna move to the photographs that you took documenting portions of Ground Zero. States Exhibit 90, what do you see there?
This is a photograph of the area, roughly a portion of the area which you refer to as Ground Zero. These are the bodies of the two deceased individuals.
There's a discolored area just as we're looking at the photograph, to the left of Abby's shoe. What was that?
That's an area of blood, a pool of blood.
Photograph States Exhibit 91, is that in the foreground? What's that?
This is the area in the previous photograph of blood found on the ground and over the leaves and sticks in the area. The previous photograph would have been taken from over in here. Indicates, and the girls are kind of laying next to each other, closer at the feet and farther at the head.
Did you observe any blood on the feet, the bare feet, of Libby?
Yes, and I think there's actually a little bit visible right here on the feet.
Indicates.
And which portion of the?
I'd call that the heel on the right foot.
And did you notice any blood anywhere else on her on that right leg?
Yeah. There's several areas of blood on her thigh.
I'm talking about the lower part of the leg.
Yeah. This picture, nothing is depicted, but there is other areas of blood on the lower leg, particularly on the back of the leg.
Photograph 92, is that?
So this is the previously discussed area or pool of blood. This is the right foot that was previous in the last picture. Then, there is areas of blood on the thigh, the hand, up the arm, on the torso, at the neck, again on the left arm, which is extended above the head, areas of blood throughout the body and in between the thighs and the areas on the thighs.
You took close-up photographs of both victims, is that correct?
Yes.
And what was the purpose of that?
To document the scene and to document the items as we found them at the scene to give information later to potential analysis to anyone analyzing anything else that was found at the scene.
This photograph of Libby's body, is this what you saw as you were standing over her?
This is, and this is also, there were limbs and branches that were placed over the bodies, one actually went through here and you can see it appears that limb actually transferred some debris and some decay into the armpit area. You can see a large area of blood, movement of blood. The incised wounds or wounds caused by what I would refer to as a Shaw RP instrument or sharp-edged instrument. Blood movement up, away from the injury and moving up the face and into the area of the eye and the nose.
Photograph 94, it's another from the looking at the top of the head down.
Again, this is.
Is that gaping wound, is that, essentially, covered by a stick or branch?
Several of the injuries were covered, yes. Was it fully covered or completely enveloping? I would say no, but obscuring would be a term that I would use to describe it. Yeah, again, it's a very similar photograph to the last one taken from a different angle.
The process of the two victims here, did you choose to begin with one in terms of the specific concentration and then move on to the other, or did you do both at the same time?
No. You can't be in two spots at once, and we concentrated our efforts first upon Libby and documenting her body and removing her body, and then moved over to Abby's body and documenting it and removal of that body.
Sergeant Olehy, you had 3 crime scene investigators and Jim Cody, a fourth. For a portion of this, you could have had 2 on to process each victim. Is that correct? As the same simultaneously?
That's plausible, but it's not what I would consider to be the best option.
Why is that?
For us. Because, A, they are in pretty close proximity to each other and are working over each other, and again, each of us individually adding our collective abilities and knowledge to the removal and collection of evidence that we found. Again, I go back to the statement I made earlier that all of us together are much smarter than any of us individually.
You focused on each victim one at a time?
Yes. We focus systematically on the removal of the sticks and then we work our way down and work our way through each individual victim, and dedicated out time specifically to one and then moved on to the other one.
Let me ask you about this. This is the right hand of Libby.
Yes.
Was your role part of your role was to collect the evidence that was taken from the scene?
Yes.
And did you do anything with relation to this right hand and wrist and portion of the forearm that the jury can see?
So in my training and experience, hands often have evidence on them. We looked very closely at the hands to determine if there were any defensive wounds or anything which may have been transferred or contacted with the suspect. We looked at the hands very closely and then swabbed the hand areas, and I believe there was an item also collected from one of the hands.
You personally swabbed that?
Yes.
Tell the jury what you did when you swabbed. How did you swab it? What protections did you take to make sure you did not violate the integrity of that swab?
So the first thing is you wear rubber gloves, and it's essentially, my practice to wear 2 pairs of gloves. If one rips, you have a second line, and also, it allows you to more frequently change your gloves without having sweaty hands or wet hands, cause it's hard to put rubber gloves on with wet hands. So wearing rubber gloves, collecting those items to not contaminate the swab that I'm utilizing or contaminate the area that I might be touching, and then utilizing what I always refer to as a cotton swab or a lowing wooden handle with a cotton, tipped end. These aren't Q-tips.
Like a Q-tips with a long.
These aren't Q-tips.
But similar with a long stick?
Yes.
And did you do that with this particular wrist?
Yes.
Area?
Yes.
And what did you do with the swab after what do you do with the swab on the wrist? Explain that to the jury.
Well, you mean how did I swab it or?
Yes. How did you swab it?
So, basically, it's very simple. You're trying to collect any potential touch DNA or transfer of DNA, skin cells left by the individual involved. And basically, you take a swab and you just rub on the skin, trying to pick up those cells. It's a very simple task as far as the complexity of it, it's just rubbing it at a brisk rate and then collecting that item.
And what do you do with that swab?
Then that swab is packaged into a fresh, new, and never before used container, whether that's an envelope, like a manila envelope, or a paper bag. You utilize paper objects to collect these items, because they're biological. Plastic is never used because of the opportunity for it to degrade or mold or mildew inside the plastic.
And you did that with each individual swab? I don't want to go through each one, I just wanted you.
Each swab would have been individually packaged of its own packaging or.
Before you move on to the next one?
That's correct.
This is the left hand. What did you do the same process with the left hand?
I completed the same process, yes, particularly focusing on an area around the wrist where there is less of what is presumed blood on the hands in this area.
Why are you focusing on an area that has the less blood?
So one of the issues if you collect the swab from the area of blood, appears to be a large area of blood, so a single depositor most likely, we ascertain that this blood came from the victim themselves, so we would expect to find the victim's DNA. If there was DNA from or skin cell transfer from a suspect, then that would be muted out by the large amount of DNA which is in the blood. You're talking about trying to collect a skin cell or 2 potentially over the blood. And if I could use a reference, it would, when tested by a DNA analyst, it would scream of the individual who deposited the blood, in this case Libby, and then the suspect will be muted out. So if, for example, you were in the Coliseum in Fort Wayne for a concert and every seat was filled and everybody shouted one word, and somebody in the middle of the arena said a word softly, you wouldn't hear the soft word, you would hear all of the other words. So it basically would mute out, the blood would mute out any potential DNA covered by that blood.
The next 2 slides show a portion of the right thigh, is that correct?
This is the thigh areas of blood, which appear to be drops, but areas of blood that move from one side of the thigh to the other, indicating movement of the blood. This is the thigh and you can see the goosebumps on the thigh, as well as the different areas. Some of this may be lighter areas of transfer of blood, it also may be just the dirt and debris from the area in the woods.
Is this the same thigh from a different angle?
Yeah, same thigh, different angle. The blood goes here and then it goes up and over the thigh and down, indicating, these are trails which, to me, indicate movement of blood.
So this is a copy of a photo the jury's already seen. Were you using an alternative light source once it became dark enough for it to be effective?
Yes. We utilized an alternative light source to look for biological evidence such as saliva or semen in the area around the bodies or on the clothing, as well.
And when you did so, tell the jury what occurred.
I believe that Sergeant Datzman saw a reflection, which was not immediately visible to Sergeant Page and myself. The alternative light source is purple in color to the naked eye. The light source doesn't react without a filter, and the filter is eye goggles or eyeglasses which are orange in color. Those 2 wavelengths then allow you to see the fluorescence of certain biologics, such as semen or saliva. We could not see the reflection of other things because of the orange glasses, but Sergeant Datzman was not wearing the orange-colored filtered glasses. He saw a reflection on something, and as we got closer in this area, we found what was a .40 caliber Smith & Wesson cartridge, unspent.
Next photograph.
A little closer.
100.
A little closer up of the bullet, of the cartridge as it was found next to the leg of, the ankle area of Libby.
And another close-up?
The cartridge located in this area, each photograph basically getting a little closer to the area.
Let's go back to this. What did you do after Sergeant Datsman's discovery, drawing your attention to this area, and then the observations that were captured in these photographs? What did you do with respect to this item?
So after Sergeant Datsman noticed the item, we were aware of what it was through training and experience in firearms with law enforcement, that it appeared to be either a casing, a spent cartridge, or an actual cartridge, and then, as we got closer, we could see the primer, in this area, is undamaged or unfired, and then documented it with photographs, and then it was collected and placed into an individual paper container to collect it as an item of evidence.
Collected by whom?
Collected by me.
How many bullets or cartridges or cartridge cases did you uncover and take away from the scene?
This is the only cartridge collected at the scene. And we searched the area and then it was again searched, and no other cartridges were found.
And did you place it in an envelope with other items?
No. It was individually packaged by itself.
What happened to it after you packaged it?
It was taken by me to the Indiana State Police District 14 headquarters in West Lafayette and placed into temporary evidence storage for further documentation on a property record receipt, and then was held in evidence to be further examined at a later date by a forensic firearms examiner.
And that's what you did with every item that you collected at the scene?
I put each item that was collected, documented on a property record receipt, I placed it into the control of the Indiana State Police Laboratory.
Your temporary storage, is that an area that's off limits to other, or who has access to the temporary storage?
At that point in time, these are lockers which have a specific key lock. The only personnel at that time on that date to have access to those lockers would have been myself, Sergeant Datsman, the evidence clerk, Nikki Benson, and my immediate supervisor, First Sergeant Scott Gilbert, and his immediate supervisor, Lieutenant Andy Lorman at that time, at that time. And it would be unusual for anyone other than Nikki Benson, Dwayne Datsman, or myself to access those items on a routine and regular basis.
And then at some point after the discovery and identification and collection of this particular cartridge, you then moved the body of Libby?
Yes, it was after. The body was moved and placed into a fresh, new body bag, and was also placed onto a fresh, clean, unused white sheet to wrap the body in to preserve any items from falling off the body before it was placed into the body bag. The body bag was then zipped and sealed for preservation.
And who participated in that process?
I assisted in that process, as well as the coroner's office and deputy coroner at that time, J.D. Cree, who transported the body from the area.
Were you present at the scene once you arrived at Ground Zero to do your work? Who had access to Ground Zero while you were there until the deputy coroner entered to assist you with Libby's body?
Well, upon my arrival, Deputy Yoder and Deputy Y. Jonkola were what I would consider in the area of Ground Zero, but not directly next to the bodies, but they were in the general area. And then, we maintained this area around them and probably 25 to 35 feet around them, which was not entered by anyone else other than myself, Sergeant Page, Sergeant Datsman, Sergeant Cody after he had completed his Faro scan, and until it was time to collect the bodies, no one else that I'm aware of was directly in the area which I would call Ground Zero or immediately around the victims.
What does this depict, sir?
So this depicts the back side of Libby, the victim in this, with debris stuck to her, as well as stuck dirt, some areas of blood apparent blood, an area of apparent blood under the body and back, and more debris on the back, so shoulder area down to, in this picture, to just below the calf.
Once you removed her body, did you then examine the area that was underneath the body?
Yeah. We examined this entire area immediately underneath for any items which may have been of a probative nature to this investigation, and I don't believe any item specifically was found.
What quantity of blood did you observe underneath the body of Libby?
I would say there was a fair amount in one concentrated area in here, but compared to the previously observed area between the two girls, that was probably the area of the largest amount of presumed blood.
The area that you called the pool?
Yes.
Now, this is Abby's body. Apparently looks like a stick has been removed from over her.
Yep. There are sticks here and here which had been placed on her, and then, in this picture, it depicts a hooded sweatshirt, as well as an injury to the neck.
Next photograph is 105, and would you describe to the jury the position of Abby's arms?
Well, so the arms go from a bent angle, a very acute bent angle from the forearms, so the hands would be inside the sleeves of this sweatshirt covering them, fully covering the hands on both sides, and then down to the elbow, and then the upper arm here to the shoulder, and they're both in a very similar position. I guess probably the best way I can describe it is maybe, just standing here, as a fighter stands or, in a, upward position as they were up against her in this manner.
Next photograph I'm gonna show a little bit different angle of the same thing. This is...
Yeah, the sticks have been removed from this photograph.
Exhibit 106.
Again, the hands fully encased within the hooded sweatshirt, forearm down the elbow, forearm down to the elbow, the upper arm up to the shoulder.
Did you feel the skin of both the bodies of Libby and Abby?
Yeah. Both were cool to the touch. Rigor mortis was pronounced and set in both individuals.
What was the condition of the jeans that are on the body of Abby?
They're wet, particularly in the areas where they're bunched up. The tops of them are beginning to dry, but the underneath side and then the top area is wet to the touch, as well as the upper garments, the shirt, the t-shirt underneath the hooded sweatshirt are all wet to the touch.
Was that consistent with condensation?
I would say no, I would say it's more consistent with being in water at some point in time. The condensation, I don't, from that point, we're already having drying here and I would not expect to still have the wetness level on the items from just simple condensation.
107's a slightly different angle. Do you recall the size of the jeans that were removed from the creek?
I'm sorry, I don't recall a specific size. I think that they were a 26 waistband size.
Does that show the way you observed the blood on the?
Yes. This is a true, clear, and accurate representation as I found it.
And this is a close-up of the injury?
And again, this would be a sharp-edged instrument injury with apparent blood and an area of pooling of blood at the left side of the neck.
The left hand here.
Yeah, this is the left hand with the sleeves pushed down, you see the dirt and debris, and forest decay, as well, also on the hands themselves, areas.
And who adjusted the sleeve to get that photo?
I did.
And why?
Just to observe the hands and to examine the hands to determine if there was any items of probative evidence immediately available to us, to determine if there were any injuries, any blood on the hands, or any other things on the hands which we needed to be able to preserve and document.
You knew you would be transporting them up a steep hill?
Yes.
And then on to another facility, or to a facility for an autopsy.
That's correct.
In that process, did you want to try to preserve anything that may disengage or come off the body?
Yeah. We want to limit any potential loss of evidence.
Did you find any blood on the left hand of Abby?
Not that I recall, there was no area of obvious blood.
Is this the right hand?
This is the right hand also with the sleeve pushed down or pulled down to expose the hand itself.
Notice any blood on the right hand of Abby?
No.
Photograph for States Exhibit 112, what are we seeing there?
Again, one of Abby's hands, it depicts basically the fingernails, looking for any blood or injury or transfer or fibers which would indicate that there was something on the fingernails that potentially transferred from the suspect.
With both victims, if you saw something adhering to the hands, would you remove it?
I did, yes.
What did you do with it after you removed it?
It was packaged in its own individual paper container, properly sealed, and properly documented on a property record and receipt, transported to the Indiana State Police Post at Lafayette, and held as evidence in temporary storage and then entered into the lab system to be documented as an item of evidence within the Indiana State Police laboratory system.
Did you adjust in some fashion the clothing of Abby since she was covered with that sweatshirt? Did you adjust the clothing to take a look at her?
Yeah, we pulled the items of clothing up to look for any other injuries or any potential cause or signs of death or injury, blunt, force trauma, bullet wounds, gunshot wounds, other edged, weapon injuries, blunt, bruising, any other items which may indicate manner and cause of death or that might also give us cause to look for any other specific item relating to that injury.
Item 113 or Exhibit 113, was that this act in process?
This is that act in process, exposing the torso area of Abby. This is the belly button, the upper ribs, the lower part of the abdomen, and the upper part of the hips, looking for any injury or obvious injury underneath the clothing, any areas of blood, just basically looking through the layers too.
Did you observe any blood or any injuries?
We did not.
And that is a gray. What type of garment is there at the top?
So this is a shirt, and then what I would refer to this gray as is I have daughters myself, I would refer to it as a sports bra type of item.
Next photograph.
This is the left foot of Abby with the shoe removed, the Converse shoe removed, showing that there is dirt and debris on the bottom of the foot, indicating that, most likely, those shoes had been off at some point.
Exhibit 115.
Yes. Again, the lower part of the body, the jeans, which appear to be far too large for Abby, with debris on them, mud, dirt. Also, I believe you can see some of the wetness in the legs here, kind of the line of wetness along here, showing moisture, and the amount of wetness, and also the darkness, the darkness of the material here, catting its moisture, it's still being moist, and then these lighter areas still beginning to dry to the touch.
States Exhibit 116, what does that show us?
This is the right foot of Abby, showing again the Converse Chuck Taylor tennis shoe, the lower foot area, lower leg area, and the jeans with debris and dirt and even dirt inside the shoe, debris inside the shoe.
What kind of dirt? How would you describe that soil area along the arch, the inside arch of the shoe?
So in this area, I referred to it as muddy or decay and debris potentially from the area, the immediate area or the immediate area along the river, along the creek, along Deer Creek. The the shoes themselves were also moist to the touch. I mean, there's basically, the entire area, there are bits and pieces of what I would call decaying leaves and branches throughout, as well as the dirt and the mud and the sand.
Given the texture of this dirt you see along the side there now I'm gonna do it. Did you see any kind of soil like that anywhere in that area?
I mean, this is consistent with soil along the whole river bottom area and it's also consistent with silt that would found in the Deer Creek area along the riverbank and in the water. Sandy, siltinous again, the same sort of sandy, siltinous from the area along Deer Creek. This picture again depicts the arms as they were after the sleeves had been pushed down to photograph the hands. And this photograph, basically, this is another tennis shoe, an athletic shoe. It is similar and consistent with the one recovered from the creek, which was pictured earlier, and was basically, until we began to take our steps to do each step and remove the branches, document the hands, and then begin to move articles of clothing that we noticed that this shoe was under here. It was basically obscured by the hooded sweatshirt that she was wearing at the time. And then, the sole of the shoe itself it's got mud on it itself, dirt and debris.
And is that now you have moved her body?
Yes, her body has been.
Not just her sweatshirt, but her body.
Yeah, the body has been moved at this point to document the backside of the body and document the area immediately underneath the body. You can see.
So that would be a difference in this shoe and the one in the previous. One was a left, and one was a right?
That's usually how they come.
Did you see any other than this blood here underneath within pretty much underneath the neck area or kind of the shoulder blade area of Abby?
That's correct. So as she's rolled over, this would be, the top of the back and the lower neck area, the right shoulder area, and then the left shoulder would be out of the frame.
Other than that blood and the blood that was shown to the jury in photographs of the front and primarily left side of the neck and on the chin, did you find any other signs of blood on the body of Abby?
No, not that I recall.
Or the clothing of Abby?
The clothing, the clothing that she was wearing on her upper torso, but, yeah, no obvious blood on the lower items.
We now remove the shoe. What did you find when you removed the shoe?
So again, for reference, the shoe would have been in this location here. Indicates, and then, what we found here was a cellular telephone underneath the body, and you can see condensation and moisture on top of the.
That was 119. This is 120.
Yeah, a very similar picture, a little closer up for reference, but again the purple-colored case. Actually, I believe the case when we later turned it over, was a Harry Potter-themed telephone case and you can see the condensation more clearly in this area and the amount of moisture that's actually on the screen, but this was located directly under what I would call the small of the back of Abby.
Under the shoe?
Yes, mostly obscured by the shoe, almost completely covered by the shoe.
And this as you flipped it over?
Yes. This is the back side of phone case indicating Gryffindor, which I have not read the Harry Potter books, but I'm told it's a Harry Potter reference.
What is States Exhibit 122?
This is the area closest to the tree where Libby's body was found. This is a smaller pool of blood that was directly under her head and neck and upper shoulder area looking downward from that tree. Again, it looks like it's, maybe a couple feet away, but it looks like it's maybe much farther than it is with some distortion for the angle. It's fairly close to the base of this large tree.
And what was the purpose of taking this photograph?
To document the area, the proximity to the tree, and to document the area under where after the body had been removed.
You may return to your seat, sir. Sergeant Olehy, did you also have the...
Yes. Each body was placed onto a fresh, clean sheet, like a bed sheet, approximately the size of a twin bed sheet, to be wrapped and to protect it from loss of any items inside the body bag. Even though the body bag is new, never been used, and in a fresh packaging, this just helps to preserve and protect the entire area around the body and any items which may come off the clothing or off the body. They go into the body bag, and then the body bag is zipped and sealed with a seal which is initialed, and I initialed both of those seals myself.
You collected blood from the scene?
Yes.
And how did you, other than you've described the swabbing process of Libby's wrist? What blood did you collect at the scene?
Areas of blood from the ground, areas of blood from the bodies, there was also a tree which had some apparent blood on it. Again, the items were all collected individually, packaged individually, and taken directly to the Indiana State Police for storage, the Indiana State Police post for storage prior to entry into the lab system.
So from near the tree, and then the areas on the ground, different areas where you saw blood?
Yes.
Were there markers placed on the ground to help document which item was being collected from where?
Correct.
So that you could tell the laboratory. This particular blood was found at near a particular evidence marker.
That's correct.
Each item individually packaged?
Each item individually packaged in its own packaging. No two collected items would be packaged together.
What is your understanding of what happened with the victims once they were placed in the body bags and removed from the scene? Where did they go?
They went into the vehicle, which was a van, what I'd call a cargo van of the Carroll County Coroner's Office. Under their care, those bags were sealed, and then, to my knowledge, the deputy coroner, J.D. Cree, took them directly to Terre Haute to await the autopsy the following day by Dr. Kaur.
Dr. Kaur is a physician who's a forensic pathologist in Terre Haute?
That's correct.
Before you left the scene, what did you do with all the items that you had packaged that you collected and packaged?
Before I left the scene?
Yes.
I mean, I gathered every teeing together individually, they were all placed into my vehicle with me and with no one else, and then I transported them directly from the area to the Indiana State Police post in West Lafayette.
And that's where you placed them in their individual packages in temporary storage?
They were in individual packages at the scene.
Right.
And then taken all together as individual items to the lab to be stored in temporary evidence storage in a secured locker.
Then, what did you do the following day?
The following day, on February 15th, I went to Terre Haute and I attended the autopsies of the two victims in this matter, Abby and Libby.
What time did you leave the crime scene approximately with those evidence items?
To the best of my recollection, somewhere between 10:30 and 10:45.
And then, you were at the autopsy the next morning?
Yes. I got to Terre Haute at approximately 7:30 the next morning.
What was your role at the autopsy? As just an observer, or did you have functions to perform?
Just like at the crime scene, the body and the autopsy itself is considered a crime scene. To document the crime scene, to document the autopsy and the items found at the autopsy, and collect any items of probative value at the autopsy, to also include items required such as standards from the individuals, to include hair standards, which would be particularly identifying to the individuals, as well as a DNA stain card and vials of the individual's collected blood.
So items that the pathologist collected, that would go to you?
Yes.
And then, how would you package or what would you do with each item that you were provided by the pathologist?
Each item provided by the pathologist or collected at the autopsy would be individually packaged. These are biological items, so they would be packaged in paper products, an envelope, a paper bag, cardboard, something to that nature.
And did you do so in this case?
I did so in this case.
And did you have another crime scene investigator with you at the Terre Haute Hospital where the autopsies were performed?
I did, Sergeant Brandon Mullen, who is a crime scene investigator. He was, at that point in time, assigned to the Putnamville post and his primary county was Vigo County, where Terre Haute is located, and he assisted and worked with me to document the autopsies and to collect items of evidence from the autopsy.
And did Sergeant Mullen leave the autopsy with any items of evidence?
He did, particularly the items of clothing, which were still wet and moist from Abby's body. He took those items in a similar fashion as Sergeant Cody took items from the river to the Putnamville post to their drying room, and those items were taken by Sergeant Mullen to the Putnamville post to their drying room to dry them out so that they could be prepared for final packaging and entry into the state police laboratory system.
Your Honor, we've brought the items of evidence we'd have him identify.
Would counsel approach? Yeah, would counsel approach?
Sidebar conference conducted.
I think this might be an appropriate time for us to break. Do you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
I think so.
Okay. Thank you.
Sidebar conference concluded.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know I hate to do this, but we're gonna break again in the middle of a witness. It's been a long afternoon and day for you, and we have much more to go through, so we're gonna go ahead and break. Again, while you go on about your own business the rest of the evening, please, remember what I've told you before, since now you will be in the company of the bailiffs, you can't talk about the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else, so please don't do that. Again, just leave all your materials there on your chairs, and Jodi will collect those, and have those available to you. Please have a peaceful evening, and we'll see you all in the morning.
All rise.
Jury out at 5:48 p.m.
All right. We are in recess, ladies and gentlemen. Be back here at 9:04, we'll start back up again at 9.
Off record at 5:49 p.m. On record October 22, 2024 at 9:01 a.m.
All right. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are back on the record in State of Indiana versus Richard Allen, 08C01-2210, MR1. I'll show the defendant Shear in person with counsel. The state is here by their prosecutor and deputies. The jury has reassembled. Are we ready to proceed, Mr. Luttrell?
We are. I thought the witness on the stand yesterday was right here and now he just stepped out, so.
Okay.
We'll have him here in just a second. Given the fact that I'm going to be showing him a number of evidence items, we have a smaller table that I would like to set closer to the witness.
Okay.
If the court would allow that.
Sure, yeah. It would probably be easier than walking back and forth for all of that.
Yes. Judge, do you want the witness at the witness stand?
Yes, please. Maybe just in front of the stand.
Yes, ma'am.
That way you're not popping up and down. Is the defense ready to proceed?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go.
All rise.
Jury in at 9:04 a.m.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to see you back this morning. I hope you had a pleasant evening. We are ready to continue. And Mr. Olehy, I'll just remind you that you are still under oath, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed, Mr. Luttrell.
Thank you, Your Honor. At the end of yesterday, sir, we were talking about evidence that was collected and taken to either the Lafayette Post or the Putnamville Post. Do you recall that?
I do.
I'm going to show you a number of items. They have many different numbers on them, but I'm going to focus, as I talk to you, on the state's exhibit sticker for clarification for the record and for the jury, but I may ask you to note other numbers that are also on there.
I understand.
What is a case number?
A case number is an identifying number which gives an individual incident or series of events an identifying number, which all reports can be referenced under that number. They may have, an initial case report is assigned a number.
Are you familiar with the number 17K00066?
That number would be, because it's a K.
I'm sorry, that's a lab.
That would be a lab case number. The lab will individually assign a case number to an incident so that the lab management system can track and do a very similar thing, but as a regular case number would for a trooper, but the lab assigns a specific number for each event, as well.
And case number 17 ISBC 001748, are you familiar with that number?
Yes, I am.
And what is that number?
That is the original case number drawn for the incident involving this matter by the Indiana State Police. The 17 indicates the year it was drawn and the ISP indicates that's a state police case number. Within their system, the C indicates it's a criminal matter, and then the individual or identifying digits remaining are the actual case number assigned to it, sequentially given.
Was any other investigation, any other case, any other state police matter given the number 17 to 1748?
No, that would be an individual case number assigned to an individual incident. Case numbers are never reused and they're actually assigned sequentially in the order which they are drawn by an officer through the entire statewide CAD system. One number is drawn, it could be drawn in the southern part of the state, it could be drawn in the northern part of the state, but that number is drawn individually to a specific event.
We have a number of items here. I don't believe it's necessary for me to go through every single one in detailed fashion, but I'm gonna hand you the first one here, State's Exhibit 137, and ask you if you could identify that for the jury.
This is a sealed paper bag containing a white bag which contains a black and white Nike brand shoe which was size 10 and was recovered from the Deer Creek.
And who was it collected, who was it packaged by, and?
This is an item collected at the scene and I provided it to Sergeant Cody to take to the Putnamville Post for drying, and it was packaged after drying by Sergeant Cody.
Does the other sticker on it indicate that it was then transported from Putnamville Post to the Indiana State Police Laboratory in Indianapolis?
The sticker itself doesn't indicate the transfer, but it indicates that the item has been entered into the lab management system or the lab's reporting system. The sticker itself doesn't do the tracking. There's a barcode on the sticker, which is a scanner used within the lab to track each individual item. The barcode is unique and individual to this item and no two barcodes are alike.
For efficiency, with the court's permission, I'm gonna ask you to come down, and I'm gonna show you the other items. Is that okay, Your Honor?
You may, yeah, as long as, just keep your voice up for us.
Yes, ma'am.
If you would just...
Yep.
Maybe stand right there, so the jury can see you. I'm gonna hand you State's Exhibit 138.
This is a sealed paper bag containing a white bag which contains a pair of Hollister brand blue jeans, size waist 26, length 33, recovered from Deer Creek. This was packaged also by Sergeant Cody after drying at Putnamville Post.
Exhibit 139.
This is also an item from Deer Creek. It's a sealed paper bag containing a white bag which contains a Colortone brand tie-dyed shirt, size extra large, recovered from Deer Creek, also given to Sergeant Cody by me and transported to Putnamville Post for trying.
Exhibit 140.
Again, from Deer Creek, given to Sergeant Cody, a sealed paper bag containing a white bag which contains a GREY No Boundaries brand hooded sweatshirt, size medium, which was recovered from Deer Creek and taken to Putnamville Post for drying.
State's Exhibit 141.
Also an item recovered from Deer Creek, it is a sealed paper bag containing a pair of Sonoma brand pink underwear recovered from Deer Creek, also taken to Putnamville Post for drying and packaged by Sergeant Cody.
Exhibit 142.
This also is from Deer Creek, a sealed paper bag containing a white bag which contains a black and purple sock recovered from Deer Creek and taken to Putnamville Post, packaged by Sergeant Cody.
143.
Also recovered from Deer Creek, an item taken to the Putnamville Post dough drying by Sergeant Cody, a sealed paper bag containing a white bag which contains a pink sock recovered from Deer Creek.
144.
Another item from Deer Creek taken to Putnamville Post for drying, packaged by Sergeant Cody, and a sealed paper bag containing a white bag which contains a green headscarf recovered from Deer Creek.
And 145.
Another item from Deer Creek, taken to Putnamville Post for drying, and packaged by Sergeant Cody, a sealed paper bag containing a white bag which contains a black faded Glory brand spaghetti, strapped shirt, size large, recovered from Deer Creek.
Your Honor, the state would move the admission of States Exhibit 137 through 145. States Exhibits 137 through 145 offered.
No objection.
All right. Without objection, 137 to 145 inclusive are admitted. States Exhibits 137 through 145 admitted.
May I take a moment to?
Yes.
You yourself testified that you collected items and took them that night, sometime after 10:30 p.m., to the Lafayette Post from Ground Zero, the crime scene. Is that correct?
That's correct. I took items from the area directly to the Lafayette Post 4.
You didn't go anywhere else between Ground Zero and...
No, I went from the area of where my vehicle was parked in the cemetery, took the items from the investigated area and the crime scene to my vehicle, and drove my vehicle directly to the Lafayette district.
Handing you Exhibit 146.
This is an item packaged by myself which was recovered at the crime scene. It's a paper bag, sealed paper bag, containing a Converse tennis shoe recovered. It's the right shoe recovered at the scene.
147?
This is another item recovered from the scene. This is also a Converse shoe recovered from the body of Abby, the left Converse shoe. It bears my markings and my initials, showing that I'm the one that packaged and placed it into evidence.
By the way, you mentioned the barcode to the jury on one of the items that Sergeant Cody transported. Do each of these items I'm handing you have a barcode on them?
Yes, they do.
And that is a tracking system within the Indiana State Police System Laboratory System?
It is. It is a tracking system to identify each individual item. Once the item is entered into the lab system, it is given a unique item number for the lab to track and a unique and individual barcode.
States Exhibit 148.
This is a sealed paper bag that I packaged. This includes a .40 caliber.
You mentioned that you obtained several swabs from either the physical area in Ground Zero or on the bodies themselves. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'm gonna hand you Exhibit 149.
This is a collection of a strand of material taken from between the fingers of the right hand of Abby collected at the crime scene, and it bears my signature or my initials on the seals.
Exhibit 150.
This is also a collected strand of material from the left arm of Abby. It's sealed in an envelope and bears my signature or my initials on the seals for the item.
Exhibit 151.
This is a swab on the inside of Libby's left wrist. This was collected at the scene by me, it bears my initials on the seals, and was taken from the scene directly to storage at the Indiana State Police Post in Lafayette.
152.
This is, again, an item taken from the scene. It is a swab, a cotton swab of the inside of Libby's right wrist taken at the scene and taken to the district for storage and temporary storage immediately after. Inaudible.
153, sir.
This is an item which I packaged and it bears my initials on the seals. It's a swab taken from above the belly button of Libby at the scene and taken to the storage and safekeeping in the temporary storage at the Lafayette Post.
154.
This is an item collected at the scene by myself and packaged, bearing my initials on the seals. It is a swab of the thigh above the knee of Libby taken and transported from the scene directly to the Lafayette Post.
States Exhibit 155.
This is an item collected at the scene on the 14th by myself and packaged by me, bearing my initials on the seals. It is a strand of fibrous material taken from the pinky finger of the left hand of Libby. It was taken from the scene directly to the Lafayette Post for storage.
States Exhibit 156, sir.
This is a swab standard of a blood stain on a tree which was located near the bodies. The swab was taken approximately 4 foot above ground level from the tree, and this was a swab taken by me and packaged by me. It bears my signature. I collected this at the scene on the 14th and took it also, as with the other items, directly to the Lafayette Post for storage and security and withholding within the State Police Laboratory System.
157.
This is item 157, taken from the scene on the 14th, collected by me and packaged by me, bearing my signature and identifying number on the seals. This bag contains a black Nike tennis shoe collected at the scene under the body of Abby. That item was also collected on the 14th and transported the same day directly to the Lafayette Post.
All these items that we've covered, you personally handled that I'm gonna showing you today?
That's correct.
158.
This is item 158, the number assigned to this item. This is a swab from an area of blood found in between two markers placed on the ground, between markers 3 and 4, which we placed on the ground to indicate different areas of blood or proposed or potential blood. This is a swab taken from the ground and collected by me, sealed and packaged by me, bearing my signature and identifying number and transporting to the Lafayette Post immediately on that day.
159.
This is a swab from the ground near the feet of Libby collected by me and packaged by me and bearing my identifying number and initials on the package. It is a swab of the ground of a red-colored material presumed to be blood collected at the scene, taken on that day, on the 14th, and transported on the 14th to the Lafayette Post.
Exhibit 160.
This is a swab from the ground directly below the head of Libby, a swab of the area collected by me and packaged by me, bearing my initials on the seals and my identifying number, collected on the 14th, taken to the Lafayette Post on that same date following my examination at the scene, and stored in evidence at the Indiana State Police Post.
Exhibit 161.
This is a swab from the ground near the tree which had the blood on it, the previously collected. This swab was from the ground near that tree, and it was collected by me, presumed blood. The swab was collected on that date, on the 14th, and bears my initials on the seals and was transported to the Lafayette.
162.
This is also a swab of presumed blood from the ground between the tree and the body of Abby collected on the 14th by me. The item bears my identifying number and my initials. It was from the ground between the tree and the body, and was collected on the 14th and taken directly to the Lafayette Post for storage following collection at the end of the processing.
163.
This is a swab of a red stain below the head of Abby from the ground directly below her head, collected by me, packaged by me, bearing my initials and my identifying number, collected as evidence in this matter and sealed and packaged by me and taken to the Lafayette Post for storage prior to entry into the lab management system.
164.
This is also a swab sample from a tree with red stains on it from the top of the north side of the tree. The swab was collected by me and packaged by me, bearing my initials and my identifying number. The item was collected on the 14th and transported to the Lafayette Post for storage and entry into the lab evidence management system.
165.
This is a swab sample from a red stain on a tree, on the lower stain of the north side of the tree. The swab was collected by me and packaged by me, bearing my initials and my identifying number on the seals. It was collected on the 14th and transported to the Lafayette Post for storage, security, entry into the lab evidence management system.
166.
This is a swab collected by me from the finger of, the left index finger of Libby. This is a swab that I collected and sealed. It bears my initials and my identifying number. I transported it from the scene directly to the Lafayette Post on the 14th at the conclusion of my investigation at the scene on that date and stored at the Lafayette Post until entry into the lab evidence management system.
States Exhibit 167.
Again, a swab collected on the 14th by myself. This item bears my initials and my identifying number on the seals. It is a swab from the left pinky finger of Libby. The item is packaged and transported to the Lafayette Post on the 14th for storage and security and put into the lab's temporary storage.
Exhibit 168.
This is a cellular telephone, an iPhone, collected from the scene. The item was collected at the scene and taken by me from the Lafayette, from the scene directly to the Lafayette Post and placed into temporary storage. The item was taken directly to that storage on that date, on the 14th.
I'm gonna show you States Exhibit 169.
This is an item collected by Sergeant Gilbert, First Sergeant Gilbert, my supervisor. This contains swab standards, collected from the cellular telephone which I just handled prior to any processing or recovery of evidence by any technician to determine information or data on the phone. The phone was swabbed by First Sergeant Gilbert prior to that handling, and these are swabs of that phone in case.
On the morning of February 15th, where were you?
I was en route and then also in Terre Haute to attend the autopsies of Abby.
And was this phone in temporary storage with the other items?
That phone was secured in temporary storage during my travels to Terre Haute.
And was this then, on the 15th, swabbed by
First Sergeant Gilbert?
First Sergeant Gilbert, is that correct?
That's correct.
There was interesting in getting the phone examined on the 15th while you were at the autopsy.
That's correct.
So the other items were put in completely packaged on another date?
All of the items went into temporary storage on the 14th. The items were placed in temporary secure storage at the Lafayette Post. As I mentioned yesterday, there's a limited number of people who have access to the temporary storage location, and only a limited number of people have access or keys to those storage areas. First Sergeant Gilbert, my supervisor, had that access, as well as the evidence clerk at the Lafayette Post would have access to it. First Sergeant Gilbert, to my knowledge, recovered the phone from the temporary storage and swabbed it prior to any handling by any technician to determine what data was or was not on the phone.
What did you do on the 16th, the day after the autopsy, back at the Lafayette Post?
My primary duty on that date was completing any sealing, packaging, or labeling of the items and then completing what's called a property record and.
From ground zero, each item, when collected, were placed in individual packaging?
They were. No items were packaged together or stored together or placed into any receptacle or container together. Each item was individually packaged.
And taken in that form to temporary storage that night?
That's correct.
You went to the autopsy on the 15th?
That's correct.
And then, on the 16th, you began packaging these items, further sealing them, and denoting the stickers and so forth you've described on the 16th?
That's correct.
But they're already in individual packages?
That's correct.
And did you do that packaging or that systemized putting of the stickers on one at a time?
Yes.
Or did you get them all out on a table like I have them today at once?
No. The stickers are applied one at a time, individually to each item.
I would move the admission, Your Honor, of States Exhibit 146 to 169 or yes, 169. States Exhibits 146 to 169 offered.
169 you say, Jim?
Yes.
No objection.
All right. Without objection, 146 to 169 inclusive are admitted. States Exhibits 146 through 169 admitted.
At the autopsy, you stated that you collected certain items, as well as your colleague Brandon Mullen collected certain items at the autopsy. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I'm gonna show you States Exhibit 170.
This is a swab collected by me at the autopsy of Libby. It is a swab from the left thigh collected at autopsy by me and sealed and initialed on the seals with my identifying initials and number, and collected by me and then taken from the autopsy in Terre Haute to the Lafayette Post for storage.
Exhibit 171.
This is an item packaged as evidence by me. It's a swab from the right thigh, collected at autopsy of Libby. It is sealed by me with, and initialed with my initials and my identifying number, taken from the autopsy on the 15th in Terre Haute and transported for storage to the Lafayette Post, in secure storage at the Lafayette District.
172.
This is an item from this matter collected by me. It is a swab from the right.
173.
This is a swab collected by me at autopsy on the 15th in Terre Haute from the left breast of Libby, collected at autopsy and sealed and packaged individually by me with my initials and my identifying number, taken from the autopsy in Terre Haute on the 15th to the Lafayette Post on that same date for storage and entry into the lab evidence management system.
We have two boxes here, 174 and 175. Would you tell the jury what 174 is?
This is a state of Indiana sexual assault evidence collection kit. These are pre-prepared collection kits, sealed prior to use and only opened upon their use, generally either at an examina-tie-in of an individual or at an autopsy of an individual. They contain various items and swabs, to include a comb and some envelopes. This is a standard case. This is a standard box of a sexual assault kit used throughout the state of Indiana in hospitals and morgues for the collection of evidence from victims. It's a victim assault, it's a victim of sexual assault kit. This one individually was collected at, it was provided to the forensic pathologist, Dr. Roland Kaur, it was provided to Dr. Kaur and he completed the collection of the actual items sealed within this. Each item is individually packaged inside and then all of the items are collected, the other ones, individually packaged. This is a very standard collection kit collected. This one was collected at Terre Haute Regional Hospital on the 15th. This is the...
And 175.
Can we go back to that item?
174.
Yeah. So that, it was sealed by me. It has both seals, sealed by Brandon Mullen. These red evidence seals are actual Y inside and contained within the initial kit. He actually closed the box and provided me with his seals on it when he handed it to me.
Are you seeing your initials?
In the autopsy, there are Brandon's initials. And then I resealed it again additionally after I took it from him and sealed it with my initials.
And this is for Abby, is that right?
I took it to the Lafayette Post. That's for Abby, yes.
And it bears the sticker, bears the reference Lafayette Post?
Yes.
So Sergeant Mullen did take several items to Putnamville for drying, but not States Exhibit 174?
Not the sexual, not 174, no, I took it.
And Exhibit 175?
Again, a standard evidence kit, sexual assault evidence collection kit.
Same as this?
It's identical in every manner.
And for which person does that apply to?
This was collected from the deceased, from Libby, collected by Dr. Kaur and his staff. It was closed and the attached seals were affixed by Sergeant Mullen, and then I continued my sealing process with my initials and my identifying number. It was collected on the 15th of February, 2017, at Terre Haute Regional Hospital and transported by me to the Lafayette District for storage and security in the lab management system.
Exhibit 176.
This is a trace fiber collected by me at the autopsy of Abby from the upper left arm at autopsy. The item inside actually contains a paper bindle or a piece of paper folded up around the actual fiber material to keep it in, so you can easily find it when you open the package and keep it protected within the package so it doesn't get lost inside the package. It was collected by me, sealed and initialed with my identifying number and my initials. It was collected at the autopsy and transported to the Lafayette district directly from the autopsy by me for entry into storage at the Lafayette Post and entry into the lab evidence management system.
The items that you indicated Sergeant Mullen collected at the autopsy, I do believe you testified yesterday that was for the drying purposes.
That's correct.
And the Putnamville district was a better drying room?
Their facility was much improved for drying of the items.
I'm gonna hand you State's Exhibit 177.
This is an item collected at the autopsy. It is a sealed paper bag containing a black hooded sweatshirt. It's a Gildan brand, size 2XL with Delphi swimming.
178.
This is an item collected at autopsy in Terre Haute, collected by Sergeant Mullen, a sealed paper bag containing a pair of blue jeans, Morris's brand, size extra large, with red stains and dirt on them. The item also contains a paper bag the jeans were transported in from autopsy. It was sealed and initialed by Sergeant Mullen and bears the lab evidence number, as well as the barcode assigned to this individual item for this item collected at the autopsy in Terre Haute on the 15th.
So 177 was the sweatshirt, and 178 the jeans that the jury saw in the photograph that were worn by Abby?
That's correct.
180.
This is an item collected at the autopsy in Terre Haute in my presence by Sergeant Mullen. It's a sealed paper bag containing a gray cotton bra, Fruit of the Loom brand, size 34, with red stains on it. It also contains a paper bag the bra was transported from in the autopsy. It's sealed and signed by Sergeant Mullen as an item collected in this matter, with its own individual barcode assigned by the lab management system.
I think I got out of sequence. 179.
This is, State's Exhibit 179 is an item collected at the autopsy in my.
And finally 181.
This is an item collected at autopsy in Terre Haute on the 15th of February, collected in my presence by Sergeant Mullen. It bears, the item is a sealed paper bag containing a black bra, unknown brand, size 34A, with red stains. The item also contains a paper bag the bra was transported in from the autopsy on that date. It is initialed and sealed by Sergeant Mullen bearing his initials and also bears a unique and identifying barcode and number from the lab evidence management system.
These were the other garments, the pink top, the gray bra, and the black bra.
That's correct.
From the body of Abby?
That's correct.
Was 169 admitted, Your Honor? Was that part of the group?
Yes.
So I would move the admission of 170, Your Honor, to 181. State's Exhibits 170 through 181 offered.
No objection.
All right. Without objection, 170 to 181 inclusive are admitted. State's Exhibits 170 through 181 admitted.
Your Honor, at his time I would ask leave, given the fact that there have been a lot of description by the witness of various markings and stickers, I would ask leave to pass to the jury in their sealed condition 146, 147, and 148 as a sample, without passing all of them to the jury, so that they can see for themselves.
Okay. So 146, 147, and 148.
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. You may. State's Exhibits 146 through 148 published. Officer, you can go ahead and have a seat.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, you were standing there. The jury's done, Mr. Luttrell.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm gonna show you a photograph you identified yesterday that was conditionally admitted into evidence subject to Dr. Kaur's testimony. By the way, when we say Kaur, that's KOHR, is that correct?
That's correct.
Just to keep it clear. Exhibit 123, without showing it to the jury, would you examine that? What is that a photograph of?
That is a photograph taken of autopsy of Abby, some of the clothing items.
And did you notice at the time and in the photograph, did you notice any lines of discoloration on that top?
Yeah. There are red staining areas of presumed blood, as well as some area of lines.
I'm talking about the lower part of the shirt.
Some lines on it, indicating moisture and wetness to the item.
And did you notice that the sweatshirt itself was damp? I believe you testified.
It was.
At ground zero?
It was found damp in the condition they were found at the scene, and it was still damp the following day at autopsy.
And then, the pink top that was underneath it, you were able to see it better at the autopsy, correct?
That's correct.
Does that photograph show the moisture on the still on the white on the top?
I believe the photograph clearly depicts the moisture-y area on the lower portion of the top.
In fact, why did you have Sergeant Mullen take those items from the autopsies to Putnamville, instead of you taking them to Lafayette?
Because of the drying room capabilities of the Putnamville Post and the...
Are you familiar with the cartridge? What do we? I think you may have answered. Another witness may have answered. What do we call the end of the cartridge that's not the bullet end? The case?
The primer end of the cartridge would be called the head stamp area. It also contains the primer in a semi-automatic cartridge.
And did the cartridge that you collected, was it a Winchester Smith & Wesson .40 caliber?
Yes, it was. That's the brand and then the caliber.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Mr. Rossi.
Thank you. One of the most common rounds of ammunition you'll find anywhere, isn't it? Smith & Wesson?
I would say no.
Okay, all right. You went through a lot of exhibits today. I think I counted about 48 of them. And let me hand you what's been marked. May I approach, Judge?
You may.
I'll hand you what's been marked 151, states 151, just so we can kind of make sure we're coordinated there in terms of exhibits. Is that the exhibit that is reflected as a swab of the inside of Libby's left wrist? Is that right?
That's correct, it's a swab.
And one of the reasons why you would take a swab like that is because there may be an opportunity to take that sample from that swab and use it for DNA purposes, right?
It could be used for that, yes.
That's one of the primary reasons really why you retain these kind of things, right? Collect and retain them?
Collect and retain, yes.
Okay, and was there any information that was generated from that swab that connects Mr. Allen with this crime scene?
I'm not aware of any.
Okay, do you think you probably would be, considering the scope of this investigation, if that were the case?
I'm sorry, considering the scope?
Yeah, considering the attention that this investigation has gotten, do you think that you'd probably be aware of that as you sit here today, if that were true?
I would assume I would.
Okay, 152, a swab of the inside right wrist of Libby, any information generated from that swab that connects Mr. Allen with this crime scene?
Not that I'm aware of.
153, a swab above the belly of Libby, any information from that swab that?
Not to my knowledge.
154, a swab of an area above her knee, any information from that swab that connects him with the crime scene?
I'm not aware of it connected anyone.
155, strike that, that was a strand of fibrous material. 156, a swab of blood stain from one of the trees out there. Any information from that swab that connects Mr. Allen with this crime scene?
Not that I'm aware of.
158, another swab between two markers on the ground. Any information from that swab that connects Mr. Allen to this crime scene?
Not that I'm aware of.
159, a swab from looks like the G round near Libby's foot. Any information from that swab that connects Mr. Allen to this crime?
To which I would object, Your Honor. I've not objected till now, but this is not the witness, as he's already stated previously, that did any analysis or was directly involved in that. That witness will testify, and so it's inappropriate for this officer or this witness to testify and answer that question. I object.
Any response?
Judge, he said, I'm asking him if he is aware of any information that came from any of this. He testified that this is a case that's gotten a lot of attention and he would likely know that at this point. I think he's entitled to ask it.
So now my objection's relevance. It doesn't it?
Well, I would overrule the objection, the first objection, but I would sustain it on relevance as to this witness.
Judge, may I? I believe that his knowledge that Mr. Allen may be connected to this crime scene has a tendency to prove or disprove that he is involved in this crime, so it is relevant for that reason.
I've sustained the objection, Mr. Rossi.
Thank you. All right. In the course of your investigation with regard to collecting all of these items, whatever they are, swabs, clothes, whatever it was, did you ever speak with anyone that was involved in the analysis of those items in terms of what those results were?
I don't have any specific recollection of a direct conversation with any of the analysts about the results of the items, directly having any conversation about it, no.
Okay, and that includes the analysis of that bullet that's sitting there, item 148?
I've never had any conversations with any analyst about the cartridge.
Okay, do you have any information that you've gathered in the course of the investigation about the results of the analysis of any of this, whether you've gotten it from another investigating officer or
Objection.
some other law enforcement authority?
I failed to see the relevance in that question.
I'm asking him what the results are of the information he gathered at the scene. I think it's highly relevant.
Perhaps for another witness. Sustained.
You heard of the concept of crime scene integrity, Mr. Olehy?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we talked earlier about this, but would you agree with me that that generally involves the idea that you would maintain some confidentiality, at least in part, with the crime scene?
I think the integrity of the crime scene and the integrity of the investigation are separate and distinct, but also both of the same importance.
Okay, so let's talk about those two prongs. One of them is that you want to maintain the integrity of that scene. You don't want that information flowing out into the public, is that right? Trying to maintain some privacy with that?
I would say yes.
And that could be pretty crucial to your investigation, because once that information gets out to the public, then it can be manipulated in many ways, right?
That's possible.
Okay, and then the other aspect of this is just kind of the hard science of making sure that there's nothing that's tampered with at crime scenes, or there's nothing that is disturbed before you get a chance to analyze it. Is that correct?
I would say yes.
Those are kind of the two primary parts of maintaining integrity, right?
I would say they are part of the integrity.
Are you aware of any information?
Objection, Your Honor. The witness was answering his question and was interrupted by the attorney.
He said yes.
He was still talking when.
He was still talking.
Finish talking.
I'll complete it there.
You were done talking, right?
I was not, but that's fine.
Okay, well, then finish what you were going to say.
I don't remember what I was going to say.
All right. Are you aware of any information in this case that suggested that there was a breach of the integrity of that crime scene?
Objection, it's irrelevant.
Overruled.
I'm not aware of any.
Did anybody suggest to you at any point, hey, there were some photos that were taken of that scene by individuals from the public?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, and what about any of the search party members that may have taken photos of the crime scene?
I have no knowledge.
Is that something you think you would have knowledge of in a normal investigation?
I don't know.
All right. Now, in terms of that, the crime scene in general, would you agree with me that when you got to that scene and first observed the scene, that there were some unique characteristics associated with that scene?
To which I would object to the form of the question, Your Honor. Would you agree with me? Suggests he's offering in his own opinion to the jury, so I'd object to the form.
I'll rephrase the question.
Sustained.
Were there some unique circumstances associated with that scene when you got there?
I would say every scene presents its own unique circumstances.
Okay, what about that one?
As with all scenes, this one presented unique circumstances.
One girl was naked, right?
This scene, yes.
And another one was dressed, right?
That's correct.
And those girls were laying on the ground, and there were sticks laying on their bodies, were there not?
There were.
And did it seem apparent to you that those sticks were not there coincidentally, that they were something that was intentionally placed there?
They appeared to be placed there by an individual.
And did you place any significance in that aspect of the scene?
That it appeared to be an attempt at concealment, that was what I assumed.
Okay, that was your assumption?
That was a presumption.
At any point in time, did you ever make the assumption that maybe there was some attempt to communicate some meaning by those sticks?
No.
Even as you sit here today, that thought's never crossed your mind?
I don't see any significance in the position of the sticks. They appear to me to be positioned to conceal, in some way, the fruits of the crime.
Well, there's very little parts of those bodies were concealed, right? We can see that in the photos, right?
Yeah. I mean, they were not completely covered.
And did you find one of those sticks to have an artificial, or I guess a man-made cut on it?
There may have been items, no, I didn't find anything that had a man-made cut to it as I would define a cut.
Did you end up collecting those sticks on that day, March 6th, 14th?
I did not.
Okay, you waited to collect those sticks until a few days later, is that right?
They were collected later.
And was that outside of the normal course of investigation that you would collect 6 days later?
It was.
Somebody suggested to you to go back and collect those sticks, right?
They did.
And in fact, there was a couple of occasions when you went back and collected some sticks, is that right?
I did not, no.
Do you remember a conservation officer suggesting that happen?
No.
You acknowledge that. Well, strike that. Are you aware of the original source of any of the clothing that was found on Abby at that scene? In other words, whose clothing that was determined to be at any point?
I don't know what a determination officially was. The items appeared to be, one of the items had the name German on it, identifying it. I make the assumption that it belonged to Libby or a member of Libby's family, due to the name being on the back of it. And then, the sizing of the clothing was more consistent with the size of Libby than it was Abby. The clothing appeared, some of the clothing appeared too large for Abby to, the jeans and the sweatshirt appeared
So a lot of these
to be other items.
I'm sorry, go ahead. You may finish, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
They just appeared to be other items not normally worn by Abby.
Okay, so the logical assumptions to be drawn there is that Libby was disrobed at some point, and then those clothes ended upon Abby, is that right?
That would be a logical assumption.
Were you able to make any assumptions about the chronology of that happening?
That would lead to a large amount of speculation of items that I don't have at hand.
And were you able to make any assumptions about the location where that occurred?
I was not.
Whether it was on the south side of the creek, on the northwest side of the creek, or somewhere else?
I'm not able to determine where and when those events occurred based on the evidence at the crime scene.
Were you able to determine where any of those sticks came from at that scene?
There were, one of the large ST pieces, there was an indentation that it appeared that the stick had been moved from nearby the body, but that's just an assumption and I'm in no position as an expert to determine the movement of items.
Did you ever do any testing with regard to those sticks to determine what type of tree they came from, or what their source was?
No.
There were shoe impressions found in various areas around Ground Zero, and even on the other side of the creek. Is that right?
I believe there were some found, yes.
Okay, and some of those were along the banks of Deer Creek?
I believe so, yes.
And is it fair to say that there were signs that there had been foot traffic in that area prior to your arrival on that day?
Yes, I was aware of a very large search the day of, prior to my arrival, by multiple searchers and a search by family and friends the previous night in the general area.
Thank you. One of the things that can compromise the integrity of a crime scene, right? People have been walking around it.
That's correct.
And was there ever any determination by you to discern where any of those impressions came from?
Not by me.
We heard some testimony earlier that, hey, it was, maybe, I think it was Mr. Datsman testified that, there was one shoe impression that was found that maybe had some similarities to one of the shoes that was recovered. Are you familiar with that at all?
I'm not.
Okay, and so in terms of any of those impressions, did you ever find any impressions from somebody who was wearing a smaller sized shoe? Maybe, something the size of the girl's?
Not that I'm aware.
Okay, was there any effort really to do anything with those shoe impressions, to try and learn more from those impressions?
I'm not aware of a specific effort to try to identify specifically to the shoes. The shoes had distinct and different characteristics to their soles. I was not privy.
Okay, so you can't really draw any conclusions about those shoe impressions other than the fact that they exist, right?
I know that there were impressions found near the area.
Okay, fingerprints. Any attempt to lift any prints out there on the scene?
No. There were no what I could call good substrates or locations to lift prints, to include the bodies, or doing any extra disturbance to the bodies at the scene and the porous nature and the dark-tine nature of the sticks themselves. Clothing items are also not good for collecting fingerprints, those are not good substrates to produce prints.
Okay, anything upon the high bridge, a tree, a limb, anything like that was in the area on the SOTH side of the high bridge that would have been valuable?
Not that I'm aware of.
I know there's a barrier up there we've seen in one of the photos on the south side of the high bridge that cuts across the bridge. Have you seen that barrier?
I recall a barrier type, like a guardrail type of a barrier.
Any attempt to collect anything up there?
Not in that area that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Not by me.
Sure. The F tree. You know what I'm talking about?
I have some recollection of a tree with blood on it.
Okay. And you're familiar that there's a fairly sizable marking of blood on that tree, right?
There is an area of red staining on the tree, which I presumed to be blood.
You?
I presumed to be blood.
Sure. Okay. And the tree's garnered some attention, right?
I mean, I think the entire matter has garnered much attention.
Okay. All right. Well, we can agree on that. So do you agree with me that one of the unique aspects of the marking on that tree was that there was a line, a vertical line, and it appears to be pretty straight?
I never took any sort of a compass or a ruler or tried to make the direction of it or find the due north or the radius of it or the direction like from a compass angle or the straightness. It appears to go up and down the tree trunk.
Did you ever just look at it with your own two eyes and say, that's a pretty straight line?
When I looked at it, it appears to be a large R of contact transfer of blood.
Okay, well, early in this investigation, when you were out there on the 14th, 15th, and the days and weeks after that, did you ever take the time to have somebody look at that, examine that marking more closely?
On the tree itself later on? No, not that, I did not personally, no.
Did you make any attempt to try and preserve that part of the tree? Maybe take a chainsaw and cut that part out and preserve it, anything like that?
It was documented and preserved with photography.
So you didn't preserve the item itself like you did the sticks laying on the...
No.
Okay, are you aware that there was a blood spatter expert hired in this case, just this year, to take a look at that tree?
I'm aware that an expert was contacted, but that's the extent of my information.
Were blood spatter experts available to you in the course of your line of employment back in 2017?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, did you employ one or recommend to anyone that one be employed in this case?
To meet the definition of the Indiana State Police's lab manual for an expert on that matter, no. To have someone trained at the scene to examine it, I would say yes. Sergeant Page has been trained, but he's not a qualified expert as to the lab manual's definition of an expert.
Okay, so after you cleared the scene, did you employ a blood spatter expert to assist you in this case?
Asked and answered.
Sustained.
Is it possible that a blood spatter expert could have assisted in helping determining the chronology of events that occurred out there in terms of when the girls were disrobed and clothed again?
I'm not aware of a technique in blood spatter that would have given that information.
Would it be helpful to know, if somebody has blood on them and they're clothed, how that blood might move on their body because they're clothed?
Yes.
Okay, would that be something a blood spatter expert might be able to help with?
They may.
We talked a little bit earlier yesterday, a little bit about scavengers. You acknowledged there was not much disturbance, if any, with regard to the two girls' bodies out there in terms of outside factors having influenced them before you guys got there?
I'm not aware of any outside factors influencing the bodies.
Are those things that you're concerned about from time to time when you have outdoor crime scenes, that other animals and insects and things can impact those scenes?
I don't know that I'm worried about it. I mean, it's part of the crime scene and I would deal with it as it came.
Fair enough. It's a poorly worded question. Are those things you take into consideration?
I would take them into consideration.
And they could be helpful in determining timing in a way that, chronology, the way things happen at the scene, right?
They can be useful in giving a varied range of time.
In terms of time, do you acknowledge that you were not able to determine the time that these girls were deceased based on the work that you did in this case?
I can't give you a precise time of death, and I think time of death is a very imprecise science.
And so what you're telling me, or would you agree with me, I should say, that it happened sometime between they were last seen on the 13th and when they were found on the 14th, right?
Objection to the form of the question. Would you agree with me?
To the form of the question.
I'll rephrase it.
Rephrase it.
Do you agree with me that it happened sometime between those times?
Objection to the word, agree, being used in the question. The attorney's opinion is not relevant to this jury. It's improper to share that with them.
Okay. Sustained on that. Rephrase it.
Did it happen sometime between those time periods?
Which time periods?
The time they were last seen on February 13th and the time they were found on February 14th?
I would say yes. If they were seen on the 13th alive and found dead on the 14th, then their death occurred sometime in between the last time they were seen alive and the time they were found deceased.
Okay, thank you for that. You talked about water levels a little bit. Did you go out into the creek or ask anybody else to go out in the creek to determine what the water's levels were on that day?
Yes, I spoke with members of the dive team, asked them to determine. To my knowledge, I don't know that they took an actual ruler out there, but the bottom of the creek is not a flat plain, it is undulating I would say, and it varied, as I asked the officers to move about, from areas of an inch or two of water up to about 2.5, maybe 3 feet in some areas from where there were some undulations that went much deeper, up to about that 3-foot point.
Thank you. Are you finished?
Yeah.
The area closer to the north shoreline appeared to be deeper. Is that fair?
There were areas which were deeper, but I would say again that the undulations of the entire area move and change on a daily basis with the movement of rock, silt, and sediment in the water. So if we went back out there today, it may be a completely different scene. Even days later, it may be completely different in that creek. It's a living, breathing creek.
We're talking about on February 14th, 2017.
I mean, there were.
Did the area closer to the north shore appear to be deeper than it did on the other side?
In some areas, yes.
Were you able to discover any location on that north shore where you could conclude that one or more individuals traveled up that shore?
Conclusively, no.
You're a hunter, you said?
Yes, sir.
And so you spend some time out in the woods from time to time?
More open field.
Okay, a bird hunter?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there anything unusual about finding a spent or unspent round in a woodland in Indiana?
2. From a hunting cartridge capability in that area, I would find it more odd to find a .40 caliber round. I would find it much more likely to find a shotgun round of a 12 gauge, a 20 gauge, a 410 gauge, or some round of ammunition approved for hunting of wild game as a handgun round.
Is there anything unusual about finding a spent or unspent round in a woodland in Indiana?
I wouldn't find it odd to find a round anywhere in the state of Indiana.
Okay, thank you. Now, in this particular, well, let me ask you this. Is it unusual for people to take handguns out into the woods and fire them?
What other people do, it would be unusual for me to do that on someone else's property.
You ever lived out in the country?
Yes, sir.
Okay, people out in the country have guns?
Some do.
Okay, and do those people shoot those guns from time to time?
They do occasionally.
And are wooded areas a place where people might shoot those guns?
They may.
Is there any? Would you be surprised if somebody was out in this wooded area along this creek, at some point in time prior to those girls' deaths, firing a gun?
I would not be surprised.
You have a Sig Sauer?
I do not.
Okay, was that what was issued to you back in 2017?
That's correct.
There's been many references here to different models, P227. Do you remember that?
I was issued a P227, yes, sir.
And then a 239, or a 226 did you say?
No, I've never had a
227, right?
A 227, which is a .45 caliber.
Okay, and then, you said a P365, which is a 9mm?
That's correct.
And there are other Sig Sauer P, and then insert the numbers for other types of Sig Sauer handguns, right?
I'm not sure about the P designation, and I'm not that familiar with the other designations for other models there are P365s with different words after them that are also 9mm, but I'm not aware of any other. I don't know Sig Sauer's nomenclature well enough to give an opinion.
Okay, well, let's stick to the 227 and the 365. Those were the two models that you mentioned, right?
That's correct.
And are those guns very similar in terms of their platform, if you will, as how they're designed?
No, not at all.
Okay, they're totally different?
Yes, very different.
Okay. Do you know anything about what the inside of those guns looks like? What the tools are inside of those guns?
Beyond basic operation and basic systems of the firearm, to include my ability to clean my firearms and utilize my firearms, no.
But how those tools are manufactured that are placed in those guns, you don't know anything about that.
I'm not, no.
So you would defer to somebody who is an expert in that?
I would defer to an expert on firearms.
I was looking at this top photo. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
The photo, which is states 78. Have you seen this
Yes, sir.
photo before? I'm going to try to. We're not publishing here, because I just put it right here so the jurors can look at it. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
This is a photo of the north side of the creek. Is that correct?
It's taken from the north side.
Okay. And if there's, in the left side here, just close to the creek line or the shoreline, I should say, there are a couple of places where there's some debris. You see that? One upon the, kind of the top center, and then the other one down here on the bottom center, if you will.
Yes, I see it.
Okay. And are those two of the locations where some of these items that we've talked about today were collected?
They are.
Okay. This creek is flowing downstream. So from the top left to the bottom right of the photo, right?
That's correct. I would call it an east to west direction.
Okay.
Generally speaking.
So one could conclude that those items that were stuck on those parts of debris could have come from upstream?
It's possible.
And you don't know where those items were discarded originally before they met their final resting location on those pieces of debris, right?
I don't know where or how they were discarded.
Now, in terms of the scope of your search, I'm not going to pull the TV over, just in the interest of time. Do you acknowledge where 300 North is, County Road 300 North?
Yes.
You know where that is relative to the crime scene?
It's to the north.
Yeah, the road north of the cemetery?
That runs along the north edge of the cemetery, yes.
Okay, that's kind of an east/west road. Is that fair?
I would say yes, that's, generally speaking.
At any point in time in this case, were you ever asked to inspect any areas north of 300, County Road 300 North?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, do you know where the Mears connector is?
I'm sorry, the mirror?
Do you know where the Mears connector is?
I'm not familiar with that term.
Okay, I'm going to help you out. Do you understand that there was a trailhead at the time, back in 2017, upon 300 North that, essentially, cut into the Monon High Bridge Trail somewhere in the middle?
I'm not aware of the full extent of the trail system.
Okay, were you ever asked or strike that? Did you ever conduct any kind of a search for clothing, discarded items of clothing, or anything like that anywhere near the Hoosier Heartland north of 300?
I did not.
Okay, you know where the CPS building was located at the time?
No.
Okay.
Not specifically.
All right, what about the area? 1 second, Your Honor. Let me hand you what's been marked as. May I approach?
You may.
States Exhibit 5. I'd like to just throw this up, but I don't want to manipulate the TV, and the jury already has it. So do you generally recognize this as being the Deer Creek that runs through the center of States 5?
Correct. Then, the high bridge is visible in the photograph.
Okay, can I turn this?
Yes.
Just so the jury can see it? Thank you. And with regard to States 5, I was asking you about 300 North, which is right here. Indicates.
That's correct.
Okay, and I asked you if you had searched anywhere north of 300 North, and your answer is simply no, right?
No.
Okay, at any point in time during this investigation, it's not a trick question. Did you ever go out and search a cornfield around this part?
I did search areas north of Carroll County Road 300 North, yes.
As part of this investigation?
Yes.
When did that occur?
Within the weeks afterwards, locations in Monticello and White County and...
Okay, all right. I'm talking about immediately north of 300.
Immediately north within this picture, there's nothing in this picture that I recall ever being asked to search north of the country road.
Okay, and the Andersons is located over here in the corner. It's the top left corner. Is that right? The grain elevator?
Yeah, grain elevator. I don't remember the name.
Okay, and you were never asked to search anywhere over there?
I was not, no.
Okay, let me direct your attention to this farm here. This farmhouse that's just north of 300 North. Do you see that?
I do see an area.
And do you see where the High Bridge Trail runs to the northwest and kind of almost meets that particular area across the street from the farmhouse?
It appears to.
Have you ever, or are you familiar with the fact that there was what I referred to as the Mears connector earlier? There's a little trail that connected the main trail there, or not?
I wasn't aware of that, no.
So that probably answers my questions. You never searched any of the area along that part of the trail, between 300 North and the trail, either?
No, sir.
For discarded items and clothing or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay, item 148. This is what we, the defense, have referred to as the magic bullet, right?
Objection, Your Honor. It's an inappropriate reference and question.
I'm asking if he acknowledges that we refer to it as that.
It's a little argumentative.
It's irrelevant if he has anyway, but an improper question.
It's improper. Rephrase your question.
Have you heard that phrase in the course of this investigation?
Objection, Your Honor. It's irrelevant.
How is this relevant, Mr. Razi?
I'm using it to identify the exhibit instead of talking about the
Then, use the identity.
exhibit as item 148.
Then, use the identity that has been accepted and relayed to this jury as 148. Your characterization is improper.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
148, right? You can't see it from there?
Yeah. That is State's Exhibit 148.
Smith & Wesson .40 caliber round, right?
That is the caliber, yes.
I saw maybe 6 or 7 photos of that round that were taken at the crime scene. Have you seen more than that?
I have not.
Okay. Have you looked for more?
I have not.
Okay. Did anybody ask you like, hey, are there any more than 5 or 6 rounds, 6, 7 rounds of this, photographs of this round?
Not to my, I don't recall being asked that, no.
Okay. Do you acknowledge that there were no photographs of that unspent round that were taken of the ground where it sat after it was removed?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
May we approach?
Sure.
Sidebar conference conducted.
I think the question was whether or not there were any photographs of the ground where it was removed. That's the first time I've asked that.
Then, I misunderstood the question.
Oh, okay. All right.
I apologize.
Withdraw the objection.
Inaudible.
Okay.
Sidebar conference concluded.
Thank you. Do you acknowledge that there were no photographs of the ground where that unspent round was removed after it was removed?
I believe other photographs were taken at the scene which would have depicted the ground after it was removed.
Okay, fair enough. But highlighting that particular area so you could see how that ground was laying, or how that round was laying on the ground after it was removed.
I'm not aware of any photograph specifically detailing the close-up area of where the bullet was removed after it was removed.
And do you acknowledge that there are no photographs of that round, that unspent round, in its true state, the entirety of it, after it was removed?
I did not take any, no.
And do you agree with me that it would be helpful in an investigation like this to see a picture of that round after it was removed from the ground?
Objection to the form of the question. It's improper to ask if he agrees with the lawyer.
Form of the question sustained.
It's important in these investigations to document, isn't it?
It can be, yes.
The most important thing that you're doing out there is preserving information and items, correct?
I would say yes.
And I think I heard Officer Page at one point saying you can never take too many photographs. Have you heard that in the context of one of these investigations?
I think the conversation I've had with people is film is free.
Say that again.
Film is free, doesn't cost.
Okay, so the logical extension of that is you can take a lot of photographs?
You can.
And this particular item was a pretty significant find at that crime scene, wasn't it?
It potentially was.
And would you agree with me that you did a poor job of documenting that particular item as it relates to collecting it as evidence?
Objection. His opinion is not relevant, it's not its part of argument, it's not part of question and answer. I'd object to the form of the question.
It's his own work product, Your Honor. It is.
It's the form of the question.
I'd object to asking if he agrees with Mr. Razi.
Sustained.
Do you wish you would have taken more pictures of that round?
Not particularly, no.
Okay. Is there any? Is it, strike that. Is it unprofessional to pick that round up, hold it, and take a photograph after while it's being collected? Anything unprofessional about that?
I would say having an individual in the photograph would be considered potentially unprofessional. Placing it into a clean area and an unobstructed area, which was not present at the scene, would be a more proper way to document that photograph.
That wasn't done in this case, was it?
It was not.
States Exhibit 82, a picture of a sock, right?
That's correct.
Somebody's holding the sock, right?
They are.
Picked it up with their hand.
They did.
And took a picture of it?
They did.
No face in the picture, right?
There is not.
Is this unprofessional?
It wouldn't be my preferred method. I wouldn't call it unprofessional, but I wouldn't call it the preferred method.
1 second, Your Honor. You did mention at one point that you had inspected Libby's. I think you said wrist areas for defensive wounds. Do you generally remember that testimony? I think it was yesterday?
Generally, yes.
Okay. Did you discover any type of defensive wounds on her body?
I'm sorry.
Did you discover any type of defensive wounds on her body?
I did not.
Pass the witness.
Mr. Luttrell.
Thank you, Your Honor. How many items of ammunition were collected in your investigation at Ground Zero?
1.
How many items of ammunition were found anywhere in that crime scene on the 14th?
1.
Of all the evidence that you collected and packaged in this investigation on the 14th and on the 15th, how many items of ammunition did you place into a package under this case number?
1 item.
When you were packaging the evidence in this case, did you have evidence from other investigations, other cases, positioned, located within the area you were packaging?
No.
Did you package each item individually one at a time?
I did.
Mr. Razi asked you the most important thing is to do all you can to preserve the evidence, something like that. Regardless of what he said, I'm gonna ask you, is that the most important thing?
I would say the documentation of the scene and preservation of the items.
And after photographing the round, the cartridge, in the ground, did you place it in its individual package to preserve any evidence that might be on it?
That's correct.
Is a .45 caliber distinct from a .40 caliber?
By size and weight, yes.
Is there any way that you would confuse one for the other?
I don't believe I would, no.
Were you surprised? Let me ask this differently. If the girls were overnight in the condition that you found them, would you be surprised the next afternoon, when you arrived at the scene, not to find any evidence of critter activity or scavenger activity on the bodies of the girls?
I would not be.
Would it be your expectation not to find them in that fashion after being overnight in the condition in which you found them?
I would expect to find them in a very similar condition left overnight as I found them.
No further questions.
Mr. Razi.
You're talking about the condition of the bodies, right?
Yes.
But expect that they might be exposed to some predators or scavengers. That wouldn't be unusual, would it?
Wouldn't necessarily be unusual, but I would also say at the time of year, insect activity is very much non-existent in northern Indiana, and insect activity is one of the things that often brings other animals, small and large, to the bodies, and the fact that there's no insect activity at that time of year I think lends itself to the fact that there was no animal activity on the bodies.
Ever seen turkey buzzards in Indiana?
Yes.
Ever seen them on the highway on roadkill?
I have.
Pretty common around these parts, isn't it?
It's very common, yes, I would say.
They can be pretty quick at getting to those things, can't they?
Sometimes.
Now, you said you collected only one round in this case, right?
That's correct.
You could have spent some extra time or given that some extra attention, because it was the only one you collected, wasn't it?
I could have.
If you had it to do over again, would you have taken more photos of that round?
I would not, based on the fact that it did identify, to my knowledge, a firearm that was used with it, so protecting it and preserving it I feel is the right thing to do and taking no attempt to do anything else that I might do to damage or transform and taking every attempt to preserve that evidence.
If you had it to do all over again, would you have taken more photos of the...
I think I took 5 or 6 photographs of one item.
Close-ups?
There were 2 or 3 that were close-up.
Did you ever take a close-up photograph of that round? A close-up, where you got down? Or did you ever see a photograph of that round when it was under those leaves that were moved before it was photographed?
Yeah, I believe there was one photograph where it was visible before we found it.
Before you found it?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I have nothing further.
Does anybody on the jury have any questions for Mr. Olehy?
Sidebar conference conducted.
And we're gonna break after this.
Okay.
We're gonna break after this.
May I grab my notepad?
Sure. Did the undergrowth appear to be disrupt under Abby to indicate she was dressed as she laid there?
I'm okay with that.
When the evidence is being tested at the lab, how is that logged and resealed in the same bag?
I'm okay with that.
Jim?
I think he's answered.
Is it common practice to change gloves at any point during evidence collection?
I'm okay with that.
Was the bullet collected in an envelope or pillbox?
Yeah, it's been answered, but I'm okay with that. He said pillbox.
He said pillbox. Well, I think sometimes people get it. I think isn't it in an envelope now? 'Cause it was collected in okay. They heard it but they're not listening. Okay. What identifies which collected items were reopened or seal broken by a lab personnel? Is there initials on the item?
I'm okay with it.
Okay. So we'll go through all these questions and then we'll take a break.
Thank you.
Sidebar conference concluded.
All right. Mr. Olehy, did the undergrowth appear to be disrupted under Abby to indicate she was dressed as she laid there?
I'm sorry, can you read that again, please?
Yes, sir. Did the undergrowth appear to be disrupted under Abby too?
I don't recall any area under her direct TLY that was disturbed beyond just small movement or movement of the body during the examination of the scene.
Mr. Luttrell, any follow-up?
I have none.
Mr. Razi.
No, ma'am.
When the evidence is being tested at the lab, how is that logged and resealed in the same bag?
So an analyst, and may I illustrate?
Certainly.
So to use item 151 as an example, the top portion is sealed with my initials and my seal. These are my initials, this is my identifying officer number, and my seals over the complete area of the opening of the flap. The bottom is also sealed by me, even though it's factory sealed. The side is actually opened with a sharp-edged instrument, like an X-Acto K knife or a small pair of very sharp scissors, and it's opened actually along the side and the item is removed. And then, once it's removed, it is resealed by the evidence person dealing with it, whether it be a chemist, an analyst, whoever it is in the lab, and then they place it back in and reseal it in the exact same container. As well, it does have the identifying number on it for the individual item that the laboratory would use to track it. And then also, this square here and the handwriting here indicates that it was removed by the same initials, which is SB, and SB up here, indicating the lab evidence number and the lab item number, so this box is affixed and added on each item examined by an analyst.
Any follow-up, Mr. Luttrell?
Do you recognize the initials SB relating to the laboratory system at Indianapolis, Indiana State Police?
Based on this case, I would assume them to be the initials of Stacy Bozanovsky.
And who is she?
She is a DNA analyst and lab analyst for the Indiana State Police Laboratory at the Indiana State Police Lab in Indianapolis.
And what is in your experience, what is the situation if you deliver a package not fully sealed to the Indiana State Police Laboratory?
It would be rejected by the lab for acceptance.
Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Rossi.
No questions.
Is it common practice to change gloves at any point during evidence collection, for example, different gloves for evidence collection on each victim?
Yes, absolutely. Gloves I go through boxes of gloves at a crime scene. I think I described yesterday wearing often 2 pairs of gloves for the ease of change. The gloves underneath protect my hands, and most often, my practice was to wear 2 pairs of gloves so I could more quickly change them and still put a pair of gloves on without the sweaty hands or wet hands or anything like.
Any follow-up?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Rossi.
No.
Was the bullet collected in an envelope or a pillbox?
It was collected at the scene in an envelope, and in order to preserve its integrity and not touch, damage, or destruct it in any way, it was never removed from its initial packaging. That was packaged at the scene directly by me at the scene.
Mr. Luttrell.
No questions.
Mr. Rossi.
No questions.
What identifies which collected items were opened or your seal broken by a lab personnel? Are there initials on the seal?
As I previously stated, yes, the seal the item is opened by a lab analyst with their individual seal and resealed by them. They'll have their specific mark or initials. And in this case, in item 151, the item is opened by Stacy Bozanovsky, resealed with packaging tape, and then resealed and signed on both sides to indicate that she was the one who opened and resealed the item.
Mr. Luttrell.
I have no questions.
Mr. Rossi.
You'd agree with me that item 148, for example, would be treated similar to 151 in terms of your testimony just a second ago?
I would say yes.
To which I would object to the form of the question. Would you agree with me?
Form of the question.
Would item 148 be treated the same as item 151 in terms of your testimony just now?
It would.
And would there also be, with item 148 specifically, the bullet, the round, would there also be a log sheet that chronicles the travels of that round from the time it was collected by you to the time that it landed here in this courtroom?
There would be a chain of custody maintained on it from the time I collected it up until this date.
You ever seen that chain of custody log in this case with that 148?
I have not, and it would not be uncommon for me not to review or see chain of custody logs after an item leaves me.
Okay, I don't have any further questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Olehy. You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah, you can just put that back in the box. Thank you. All right. We're gonna go ahead and take a quick break. Again, ladies and gentlemen, while you're outside the courtroom, please keep your minds open. Form any opinions or conclusions about anything. You may discuss the evidence that you've heard so far, but please, only do that if all 16 of you are present in the jury room at the same time, and then, please, don't deliberate. Gentlemen.
All rise.
Jury out at 10:49 a.m.